From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Source of stress or strife for the people is there.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen, and proudly welcoming you to this Monday's edition of For the People for October the 30th. We got Halloween. It's tomorrow, and it really feels like fall for sure. It was about 48 degrees when the sun came up, and quite cool. My hands were freezing when I was exercising this morning. I did not have gloves on, but don't feel too bad. What I did was I put my hands inside my sleeves of my long sleeve shirt. Now, it probably looked very ghoulish given Halloween is around with my nubs, but they were feeling pretty warm. And I'm just going to have to find a pair of gloves, but it was more crispier than I thought. I thought I was taken care of with everything else, but that was the main thing. My extremities were cold, and it's going to be with us for a couple days, and then things are going to start warming up again. But it's nice to have the change of weather. I kind of like it. And if you live in Florida, you've been in Florida before, you understand why we welcome this this cool weather. A story over the weekend that I just had to shake my head and just say, you got to be kidding me. But I knew this was coming, more of this to come. But this is political correctness gone amok. And it's not just gone amok, it's gone insane. What am I talking about? Well, there's a lot of things we can talk about. Certainly, Paul Manafort, stuff going on second hour. We're going to be covering that, hearing from Judge Napolitano and several others talking about that case. Pretty big deal, that's for sure. I actually printed everything off for that and what he was served with, and very interesting. But this is a much bigger deal that I think a lot of people understood about him and his connections to Russia. And we'll explain how that could or may not affect Donald Trump. People have been asking, is there any collusion? Well, we'll explain that and what the judge is saying and so many other lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Today we're talking about the plaque honoring George Washington at his church. George Washington went to a church in Alexandria, Virginia. I used to live in that city, beautiful city. Know the church, didn't attend it, but I know exactly where the church is, and it's a beautiful church, and it's called Christ Church, and they've decided to take the plaque dedicated to him because now he's so controversial. Our towering figure, George Washington. I was going to say I tweeted about it. I should have tweeted about it, but we Facebooked it. People are already starting to weigh in on it. But here is our founding father, the first president of the United States. Do these people not know? Do they not understand nor appreciate that the church that they are sitting in, that they're asking the plaque to be removed, the church would not be there most likely, and this country wouldn't be here. We would not be America. We would not have what we have today had it not been for these pinnacle figures in history. This is ridiculous. And because a few, this is grandstanding. This is everybody's offended. Everybody's offended. I mean, we're going to start tearing down buildings next because a building might offend somebody because it's an eyesore outside your residence? I mean, where does the lunacy end? Dear God, really? Well, they've been taking crosses down for a while here in America because it offends people. Christmas time right around the corner, I can't believe that a lot of retailers already putting Christmas stuff up. It's not even Thanksgiving. That's ridiculous. Is it just me? I mean, let's have a little Thanksgiving first. Let's give thanks. And I love Christmas, too. I do. And I love Christmas music. Sirius XM's got the Christmas channel November 1st. Yes, I can deal with that. That's kind of a nice thing. We got the turkey going and all that. But, geez, let's not start buying Christmas stuff already, really. It's just the secularist out there, the atheist out there. They don't want any remnants. They don't want any reminders of key figures that were a part of our American heritage. And that's one of the reasons why I am running Your American Heritage. It's 60-second vignettes that were put together several years ago. And Don Keyes, legendary Don Keyes, who worked in Dallas with the McClendon radio group, that name I understand for many of you have no idea, but he was a big muckety-muck, if you will, in radio, and people revered him. But he had a great voice, bottom line, and he's the one that wrote these, and he voiced them. And I put them together, and it was many years ago. We're talking, maybe 20 years ago. And I have 50 of them here, and supposedly there's another disc that has 50 more that were produced by somebody else that Chuck had put to work on it. But it was definitely a labor of love. But to me, it's more timely than ever, given the climate that we have to take down everything, because a few visitors may or may not feel, they may not feel welcomed because they're too controversial. Confederate General Robert E. Lee being removed because apparently they made church visitors feel unwelcomed. Robert E. Lee and George Washington are not there. They were there. It's an historical marker. This is where he attended church, the founder of our nation. What in the world? You know, this church, Christ Church there in Alexandria, Virginia, they're getting all this media attention and extra visitors because of the very, very fact they're not turning that away. I tell you what, church is supposed to sort of be a little offensive in some ways. It's supposed to make us feel like dirty wretches. George Washington, yes, was a slave owner. Andrew Jackson was a slave owner. And you know what? They two of them, historical figures that I just mentioned, have in common if you study them. And let me just preface this for anybody that might not like the direction that I'm going here. Slavery is not a good thing, that's for sure. And we've understood what it has done to people. But that was a long time ago. And secondly, you can't judge the future today, 2017, on the values of yesterday. And you can't erase what happened. If you had a time machine, maybe you could have done something about it. But it doesn't make it any less historical or significant by removing the marker, removing the plaque. To me, they are markers in history. They are important markers, and we should never forget who fought, who bled, who died, who formed our country. There's just pivotal moments in our country that without them, we would not have the freedoms that we have today. They are sacred. And I just don't think that people with a room temperature IQ fully get or grasp the enormity of the situation. This is deep, and this is bigger than any of us. But I am afraid. I'm afraid of this country, the direction that it's going. I don't like the PC. police. And I don't like people that are cowtailing to a few people. They're offended. Go someplace else. Go somewhere else. Seriously. Dear God, everybody's making this, and not everybody, but there's a few that are making statues, plaques, figures. Before it meant nothing. Charles Barkley, he's a basketball player. He's been outspoken about all of this recently, saying that none of these statues meant anything to anybody. Nobody, no African-American that he knows, no minority that he's known, but now all of a sudden everybody doesn't like him and everybody sees them. When was the last time you visited one? Sought one out and then felt offended? Please, give me a break. There's a lot of things that offend me, but geez, I really, honest to goodness, seriously? I don't like that house. Well, let's tear it down. I don't like that tree. Let's cut it down. I don't like that person. Let's kill him. Does that seem fair? People's contributions, lifetime achievements, histories. None of us has perfect history. And if we lived back then, and if many people lived back then, it would have been a different world. It'd been interesting to see people voice their discontentment and go against what the society was deemed as being the right way to go. You would have had your head cut off. You'd been mid-lynched. You'd had some bad things happen. Luckily, society has changed, but not for the better today. This is just what I call liberal lunacy, where people have literally lost their heads. I don't know if it's chemical poisoning. You know, they talk about preservatives in foods, from fertilizers and emulsifiers. Maybe people need to start eating organic because you're losing all sensibilities. You're losing all common sense. Poor George Washington. What would George think today? I wonder, seriously, if you could bring these people back, Abraham Lincoln, if you can bring back George Washington, Ulysses Grant, all these folks, and bring them back and let them see what's played out today. I really, I'm offended. You hurt my feelings. Dear God, what happened to men in this country? Be a man. Man up. Seriously, I mean, this is just absurd. I have never seen such a most ridiculous, a bunch of idiots in this country complain about the stupidest things. Get a life. Go to work. Go do something productive for your country. Study your American heritage. I thank God for our American heritage and for the men and women that fought for this country. And by the way, blacks fought for this country. Whites fought for this country. Indians fought for our country. We all fought hard, and we all bled and died together. That's how this country became united. With everything that you see today, folks, people are divided like never before. In the 8 years during Barack Obama, you want to talk about putting a wedge in the American psyche. And what the liberal media does today is they do the same thing. They fan the race game. They pit one against the other. You can point out so many historical facts for so many different people. How about the York of New York? Let's just rename New York City altogether, because you know what? He was the largest slave owner